the nation states haven't been around that long. Most people don't understand that the Westphalian system has only been around for about 400 years. And in fact, most nations, not states, but nations, communities of people, were not even in the Westphalian system for a long time. Now, you can think about why the Westphalian system, why the nation-state system developed. I think it's essentially that technology, including speed of transport, letters, radio communications, etc., meant that each center of organization attracted smaller groups of organization to it, and they grew and grew and grew and kept growing until they hit the boundaries of others also doing the same. And then there was conflict, and then borders were constructed either through, well, unless they were natural borders, borders arose as a result of trying to dampen down the expense of that conflict. Okay, and there's clear physical reasons why that arose. It's a geographical conflict, and geographical basically means a two-dimensional spatial conflict. But the internet has no two-dimensional spatial nature. So instead, what you see with the conflicts that occur through internet-based organizations, and states are increasingly moving onto the internet, is a kind of interdigitization of conflict. That is, there's no border. There's no border, and it's 220 milliseconds from New York to Nairobi. So why would there ever be peace in such a scenario? There's no border of peace within which there's greater cooperation. That's not easy to construct. Now, with cryptography, to the degree that it's well engineered, you can create some kinds of borders. In fact, that's what all institutions that are surviving on the internet and anarchic international space are doing. They're creating their own borders using cryptography. But the size of the attack surface for any decent-sized organization and the number of people and different types of software and hardware that it has to pull inside itself means that that's very, very hard to establish. And things are moving so fast that I don't think it's really possible for organizations to come up with borders that are predictable enough and stable enough to eliminate conflict. Therefore, there will be more conflict. They're kind of, they're sexy because they have a lot of power and that they conform to certain classical human models that we've culturally absorbed over the last at least few hundred years, and the notion of a well-defined cultural other. But I think they're small players, really small players in this game as it goes forward. I mean, you look at what Google and Baidu and Tencent and Amazon, Facebook are doing in their basically mass open cut harvesting of the knowledge of humankind as we express it when we communicate with each other, if some people do on Facebook, or uploaded YouTube videos, or deals between different companies to get hold of their data. That classical model, which people in academia have called surveillance capitalism, namely you acquire capital through surveillance. The capital is the data, and then you sell it to advertisers, basically. That's changed now. It's really a very, very interesting and important and severe economic change, which is to take the surveillance capitalism model and transform it instead into a model that doesn't yet have a name, but we call it the AI model, which is to use bait and switch techniques that Google and others have done, to provide enticing services to get hold of data, and then using that vast reservoir, train artificial intelligences of different kinds, and thereby replacing not just intermediating sectors, which things, most things you do on the internet are, in some sense, more efficient intermediations, but to actually take over the transport sector, or to create whole new sectors. And even just the transport sector alone, this is worth trillions of dollars more than the advertising intermediation sector. So it's and to be a player in that game, you have to have the vast reservoirs of data. And Europe doesn't even have one. It's incredible. It could have perhaps could have struggled forth with one. But of course, the AI companies in the UK have mainly been bought out by US companies. And similarly with Germany, I don't know whether China has been buying out European companies. But if you look at things like the European privacy legislation and the tradition of privacy, not so much from UK, but emanating from Germany and Germanic Europe culturally, that while it's kind of dear to me as someone who understands about the importance of privacy, it has meant that a European company has not been able to emerge, although I think there's other reasons as well why it hasn't, that could harness all the data of Europe, pull it together, and use that to train artificial intelligences in the way Chinese and American companies have.